In just hours, free agency officially starts, but we have some interesting movement in the NBA already. The Spurs, Dejounte Murray, someone we've been discussing as somebody that could possibly no longer be with the Spurs, is no longer with the Spurs. He was traded to the Atlanta Hawks. He will now join Trae Young in the backcourt in Atlanta. And it was an interesting deal because you could say both sides were happy. When you look at the details, the Spurs got Danilo Gallinari, make the contracts work, 3 first-round picks, and a pick swap in 2026. And the Hawks get a nice piece to go alongside Trae Young. Jalen Rose, what do you think about Dejounte Murray's fit in the backcourt in Atlanta?
Making moves, y'all. Moves, y'all. On and on and on. You know the Hawks are like that adopted team in my family, Jacoby, because my family lives in Atlanta for over 20 years. Go to a ton of their games, seen them change over their roster, seen them change their front office, add to their ownership. My brother Grant Hill is a part of that as a minority owner. My family, Mariah, Ladarius, Gracie, and I, we go to a lot of their games. And let me tell you something. For a Hawks team that made the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago, to add with Trae Young, who's established himself as a legitimate superstar, not only scoring the ball, but a 4-level scorer, which changes the game now. There are only a couple of players, Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, Trae Young, who shoot the ball from 30. And what ends up happening is when you got that guy that can shoot the ball from 30, you can practice a 4-point shot to spread the floor. Now all of a sudden you're gonna give me another all-star caliber backcourt mate that plays defense, that can also dribble and create for himself, that's gonna make the game and the usage of Trae Young go down, but his efficiency go up, and somebody that's gonna help him get easy shots also? Like this is definitely, this is definitely the most young, exciting backcourt in the East, like right off the top of my head. And what now the Hawks have done is created another asset to allow them to probably make a move for like a John Collins, since that's been talked about so much. So I literally love this for the Atlanta Hawks, but I also have to not ignore that there were 2 teams in this trade. And for the Spurs, when you look at Dejounte Murray, if you're gonna get 3 first-round picks for him, Jacoby,
Yep.
you actually do that deal. You actually do that deal. Because while he is an all-star level player, he's not an MVP level player. And it also tells me at Pop's age that the Spurs are looking more clearly towards the future than trying to win right now. Let me tell you one more thing. You know how I used to scream something real loud about San Antonio? I'm gonna scream something else too. This goes if you have a young coach, but since Pop is gonna possibly coach this team next year without Dejounte Murray, I gotta say this. No, Spurs, no!
Well, that's my question, Jalen, is what does this say about the future of Greg Popovich and the Spurs? Because the Spurs are clearly in a rebuild. They're bringing in young talent. They've got a bunch of picks in 2025, 26. Do you think Coach Popovich will be there to reap the benefits of this trade?
No, Spurs, no! But let me just throw something out there, right? Say you're Pop and you don't want to retire. You got to be watching the net situation. You have to be. Let me just bring you behind the curtain. Sean Marks from San Antonio, who clearly played with Steve Nash, who he hired.
Oh, I love this.
They played together in Phoenix.
I love this.
And
Give
if
it to
Pop
us.
wants a chance to get another championship, the Nets look like a good landing spot for that to possibly take place. So if he retires and he doesn't want to do this anymore, all bets are off. But if he's gonna stay in the game, I just gave Pop a job. There's your intrigue, there's your theater.
Jalen's not saying it is going to happen, just saying if he's not retiring, and he wants to continue to be a coach and doesn't want to be part of a rebuilding situation in San Antonio, the Brooklyn Nets would be a nice landing place. Keep an eye on that for 2023-2024. Who knows? And we'll see what happens with the Spurs. But let's get back to Atlanta. You mentioned this briefly, but when you talk about the Atlanta Hawks, you always end up talking about John Collins, and he ends up in all of these trade rumors. I'm a huge John Collins fan. I love what he does. He brings the defense to the table. He can shoot. He's a lob threat. He does so much, but it always seems like we talk about him getting traded. Jalen, what will the Hawks do next with John Collins?
He will eventually get traded. And I just told you that about Dejounte Murray. Like, where there's smoke, there's fire, and ultimately these deals end up happening. And that's going to happen for John Collins, who has great value around the league because there aren't going to be many guys that's going to get you 50, 60 dunks, but also make that amount of threes. He's one of those guys. Pick and pop, pick and roll, can play in the half court, can play in the full court, an improved three-point shooter. He worked on his game. But I think they want to get somebody at that position who can also be a shot creator. See, what happens now in today's game is Trae Young, you saw the PER. Dejounte Murray, you saw the PER. You know what their team is saying about both of those? They want them to come down. And how do you make them come down? You get another front court player that can actually be a shot creator, that can also draw some attention to make the game easier for those guys too, that can get a rebound and now push the fast break himself and make a play for somebody else. And so that's what I think they hoping to do at that spot. But again, in the West, if you don't have a team, if you're a David Jacoby out there, right, and you're a Die Easy fan, and you just like, I just like the NBA. LeBron ain't where he got drafted.
Certain players
KD ain't where he got drafted.
LaMelo. I like to watch the Pistons.
Kawhi ain't where he got drafted. Pop is possibly going to retire soon or go to the Nets.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.